Praise Jesus. Praise Jesus. Hallelujah. Victoria for Kingdom Therapy. I pray that we are all good. You are all good. And the Lord is working in your lives. Today we are going to talk about how to receive our miracles. We've literally been talking about restoration the past few weeks. So today we are going to talk about how do we exactly receive that miracle. We know that there are signs, there are wonders, but at the same time, there are miracles. So today we are going to focus on miracles, how to receive your miracle. Miracles don't happen where they are needed. Miracles don't happen where they are needed, but miracles happen where they are expected. So don't sit and say, God can see that I actually need a miracle. No. God knowing that you need a miracle, or you yourself knowing that you need a miracle, won't make that miracle happen. But what is going to make that miracle happen in your life is when you expect it. Do you have faith for that miracle to happen? Are you expecting it to happen? Expectation is the mother of all miracles. You must expect a miracle for a miracle to be able to happen in your life. So you don't just get a miracle because you desire it, or because you deserve it, or because you feel you're desperate for a miracle. No, you won't get a miracle just because you're desperate for one, but you must expect that miracle. Everybody, I will tell you, everybody needs a miracle, but not everyone is going to receive a miracle just because they need it. There is a huge difference between you needing a miracle and you expecting a miracle. You may need a miracle, but you're not expecting it. I'll give you an example. There could be a person who is sick on their deathbed, and the doctors have said they've done everything medically possible. But does that person expect healing from God, or they simply, when you look at that sick person, you know this person needs a miracle. If it's not God who is going to change this, then no one is going to do it. Like the doctors have done it also. That person needs a miracle. But just because that sick person needs a miracle doesn't mean that miracle is going to happen. What is going to bring that miracle or cause that miracle to happen is if that person is expecting or is expectant of that miracle. If that person actually says, you know what, dear God, everything humanly possible has been done. Now, may your healing hand work for me. And not only them surrendering that God's healing hand works on them, but also them being expectant that now, at this stage in my life, all I need is for God to work, and I ask God to work, and the only thing that is going to heal me now is God's healing hand and God's miracle. So that person begins expecting the miracle of healing. That's when healing is going to happen. So just because a person is sick and they need a miracle doesn't mean the miracle is going to happen. That's why most times you'll say, if prayers work, if doctors work, if prayers work, if pastors work, how come the other sick person died? How come the other person was prayed for but they died? How come that person was Christian but they died? The question is, were they expecting the miracle? So just because you see them in need of a miracle doesn't mean they were expecting it. So that's the only way miracles are going to happen. So I want us to know that there is a huge difference between miracles, signs, and wonders. Though one could lead to another, but there's a huge difference. A sign is not a miracle, though it can appear as one. A sign may appear as a miracle, but it's not a miracle. I'll give you an example. When the Israelites were told by God to put blood on their doorposts in the book of Exodus chapter 12. We are going to read there. That was a sign, because God asked that if they put blood on their doorposts, when the angel of death is passing around, the angel of death was supposed to pass over all those houses that had blood on their doorposts, meaning the identification, the sign for them to be passed over, for their firstborn sons not to die, was the blood. So the sign was the blood. That wasn't a miracle, that was a sign. So, but a sign can lead to a miracle. The fact that all the other firstborn sons in the Egyptians' homes died and theirs didn't die, that turned out as a miracle. But what led to the miracle was the sign. Let us go into the book of Exodus chapter 12, from verse 12, to read more about that. Exodus chapter 12, verse 12. It says, "For I will pass through the land of Egypt on that night, and will strike all the firstborn in the land of Egypt, both man and beast. And against all the gods of Egypt I will execute judgment. I am the Lord. Now the blood shall be a sign for you on the houses where you are. And when I see the blood, I will pass over you, and the plague shall not be on you to destroy you when I strike the land of Egypt." So we notice that the blood was simply a sign for a coming a miracle. The miracle was their sons being spared, but the sign was the blood. So as a sign and a miracle are totally different things. So yet, though one can lead to another. When also we go into the book of Mark 16, let us go into the book of Mark. Mark chapter 16. Mark chapter 16, let us read verse 17. It says, Mark 16 verse 17. Mark 16 verse 17 says, let us begin from verse 16. "He who believes and is baptized will be saved, but he who does not believe will be condemned. And these signs will follow those who believe. In my name they will cast out demons. They will speak with new tongues. They will take up serpents, and they will drink anything deadly, but it will not by any means hurt them. They will lay hands on the sick, and they will recover." So Jesus says that whoever believes in him, signs will follow them. And he gave those signs that will follow them. They will be able to heal the sick. They will trample serpents. They will drink deadly things and they will not kill, and the deadly things they've drunk will not kill them. So it's not about just the belief, but the signs follow those who believe. When you believe in God, literally signs will follow. We follow, not miracles, but signs. So it's not a must that when you believe God, miracles will happen to you, or when you believe Christ, miracles will happen for you. But if you believe in Christ, he has promised, or he promised, that signs will follow you. I hope you're getting the difference between signs and miracles. So the signs are, even when you drink deadly things, you will not be harmed. You'll be able to trample serpents. You'll be able to heal the sick. But these signs will only follow if you're a believer. Meaning, if you're not a believer, no sign is going to follow you. So you need to check yourself if in your life you have no demarcation of a godly sign. If however much you claim to be a believer of Christ, a Christian, and all so forth, so on and so forth, but there are no signs in your life, then that means there is lack of God's presence in your life. Because where God is, where his presence is, miracles must, signs must follow. So if you have no signs to show for your belief, then you need to check yourself, because a sign is a seal of a higher power. A sign shows the presence of God in your life. A sign shows that you have God in your life. And now that we've looked at signs, what are wonders? Wonders are astonishments in our life, what you will call an astonishing situation, a situation that amazes you, a situation that that is beyond your recognition. You know, something is a wonder if you're like, how did this happen? That is when, you know, you're astonished by something. It amazes you. It's happening actually surprises you. That's what a wonder is. And usually a miracle can be a wonder. A sign can be a wonder as well. So let us indulge in our topic today, because our topic was how do we receive our miracles, and our focus was on miracles, though we had to talk about signs and wonders. So what exactly is a miracle? What is a miracle? A miracle is when God directly intervenes, or God directly steps into a situation that would have happened differently in the natural law. When I talk about the natural law, I talk about the physical way, the carnal way, the physical way things are supposed to be done on earth or in our lives. So that is the natural way. Let's say the natural way is, I'll give an example. A child is supposed to, let's say, start sitting at the month of 4 or 5 or 3 if they are girls. But if a child started sitting at 1 month, that is a miracle. Like sitting by themselves, like you put a child down and they sit by themselves, and they sat at 1 month, that is a miracle. So if something happens differently the way it would have happened in the natural way, and that thing was an intervention of God. Remember, a miracle is when it's an intervention of God. If it's an intervention of diabolical spirits, then that ceases to be a miracle. That is not a miracle. But if it's God intervening in a situation, God stepping into a situation, God taking over a situation that would have happened differently, then and that situation defies the natural law, then that is what a miracle is. For example, we'll go to a biblical word. Let's go into the book of Judges, Judges chapter 6. Judges chapter 6. Let us read verse 12. Verse 12 says, in this book, when we go into the book of Judges, literally we are talking about Gideon and the angel. We know that Gideon was supposed to fight the Amalekites and so on and so forth. So we are literally talking about Gideon. So Judges chapter 6 verse 12 reads, let us begin from verse 11. Now the angel of the Lord came and sat under the terebinth tree, which was in Ophrah, which belonged to Joash, while his son Gideon refreshed wheat in the winepress in order to hide it from the Midianites. And the angel of the Lord appeared to him and said to him, the Lord is with you, mighty man of valor. So verse 13 says, Gideon said to him, oh my Lord, if the Lord is with us, why then has all this happened to us? And where are all his miracles which our fathers told us about, saying, did not the Lord bring us from Egypt? But now the Lord has forsaken us and delivered us into the hands of the Midianites. There was a war going on between Israelites and Midianites. The Midians wanted to take over the land where the Israelites had settled. Remember, when the Israelites came from the land of Egypt, God had promised them the land of, or what we call the land of Canaan, or the Canaan land. But in this land, they found different people. They were the Jebusites, the Perizzites, the Hittites. So many tribes had settled in that land already, and they were supposed to fight and take over that land and settle in that land. So some of the people, some of the tribes they found there were the Midianites. So now the Midianites were attacking the Israelites. So the angel of the Lord appears to Gideon and says, you are going to be the commander of the army that is going to win over the Midianites. And then Gideon asks the angel, what happened to the miracles that our fathers told us that the Lord did? Why is he letting this happen? Why isn't he doing a miracle for us anymore? Remember the miracles that happened in heaven? Remember, I said if anything happens, if God intervenes in any situation and it happens differently and it defies the natural way, then that is a miracle. We saw the frogs. We saw water turning into blood in the book of Exodus. We saw like insects, gnats. We saw so many things. We saw the firstborn sons being killed and all that. All those were miracles because they defied the natural law. Naturally, there's no way water in all the lakes and the sea is going to turn into blood. Naturally, there's no way a Red Sea is going to part and then it become, and a road appears in the middle for people to pass. So that was a miracle. All those were miracles that defied the natural law. So here was Gideon asking the angel, what happened to those miracles that our fathers told us about? So the point in question is, if God is with you, then miracles can't miss in your life, because this is what Gideon is saying, that what has changed, because our forefathers told us that as long as the presence of God was with them, as long as the cloud of God walked with them, they received miracles. Actually, there was a point where even manna fell from heaven, and they ate food, they had meals, and even they had birds to eat, and they literally just fell out of nowhere. So what happened to those miracles? So if you see that there are no miracles happening in your life, then probably you are missing the presence of God in your life, because miracles can't miss in the equation if you have the presence of God in your life. So where God is, miracles will follow. If you're in a church, or if you are in a situation or in your life, there is nothing you see that defies the natural law that has been done for you or that is happening to people around you, then that means there's no God, or there is no presence of God in that church or in your life. So God can't be present and the impossible remain impossible. The moment God is present in a situation, in a place, in a life, then the impossible are going to be possible, because we know that with God all things are possible. When God directly intervenes in a situation, then it has automatically become a miracle. So let's assume you I'll give an example. You did an exam, or you did not even do an exam. You didn't do an exam, and then all of a sudden miracles, and then all of a sudden your results come back, and then you have a clearance, you have marks, and then even the lecturer doesn't know. The lecturer is so sure they saw your paper and they gave you that marks. That is a miracle. But it is different if you did that paper and you actually passed. That is not a miracle, because you literally deserved the marks. So the miracle is when something that has happened defies the natural law. So then how do we go ahead to receive miracles? Because we want, we need miracles. How can life happen without miracles? We are receiving we have so many situations in our lives that need miracles. We need the intervention of God. Things are not working out the way we expected them to work out. So how then do we go ahead to receive miracles? Number one, we are going to receive miracles when we are in strategic places and in strategic atmosphere. Remember, we said that we need God to be present for a miracle to happen. That way you see that God is present in your life or in a situation or even in a church or even in a home is if miracles are there, because wherever God exists, wherever God's presence is, miracles, signs, and wonders will follow. So the number one way you receive a miracle is if you place yourself in strategic places or strategic atmospheres where the presence of God is. Not only following God to receive miracles, no. don't quote me wrong, we are not only following God to receive miracles, but you cannot say you experience the presence of God if you're not seeing miracles in your life. You can't say I've seen God. If everything in your life can be done by you, why would you then need God? Let's say if everything that happens to you is about you, like it's your humanly power, everything you have is about, you can do it yourself. Why then would you need God? So when we receive miracles, we know that God's presence is with us, because we need God to be able to experience those things that we can't do ourselves. So sometimes it's not that God is not performing. Sometimes it's us who are unable to receive miracles, because if God is in your life, then that means miracles should be happening, or miracles are supposed to be happening in your life. So if there is no miracles happening in your life, then it's not because God is not performing miracles in your life, but it's because you're not able to receive the miracles. You may know about the miracles, but you may not know how to receive your miracle. Let us go into the book of Mark. Mark chapter 10. We are going to read about blind Bartimaeus. Mark chapter 10. Let us begin from verse 46. Let us begin from verse Mark chapter 10, verse 46. It says, then many warned him to be quiet, but he cried out all the more, Son of David, have mercy on me. So Jesus stood still and commanded him to be called. Then they called the blind man, saying to him, Be of good cheer, rise, he is calling you. And throwing aside his garment, he rose and came to Jesus. So Jesus answered and said to him, What do you want me to do for you? The blind man said to him, Rabboni, that I may receive my sight. Then Jesus said to him, Go your way, your faith has made you well. And immediately he received his miracle of sight and followed Jesus on the road. When we go a bit back, let's say in verse 44, 45, until we get to 46, we see who blind Bartimaeus is. Blind, why they call blind Bartimaeus, why he's called Bartimaeus. Bartimaeus means he was a son of Timaeus. Why everyone knew that, why Bartimaeus' situation was not new, it was because he came from the family of the blinds. Timaeus, when the Bible says a blind Bartimaeus, the son of Timaeus, it means, the story short is, Bartimaeus and his father Timaeus were blind. That is why it was so normal. It was so normal to see him blind. Like, people passed him by because it was the norm of the day. His father was blind and he was blind. So it was, it had become, a normal thing for people to see, to know that actually in that family people are born blind. So and he always sat on the highway. So while others were progressing, he was blind. When you're blind, there is literally nothing you can do. So while others were progressing, while he was simply growing in age, in number, but not progressing. Because remember, if you have no sight, then you're not going to have vision. And if you have no vision, you will have no mission. If you have no mission, you will have no provision. And if you have no provision, you are going to completely be wasted. So if you are blind, then what are you supposed to do? You need a miracle, because when you see someone who has been blind for years, that means they've done everything. And remember, we've said that when it comes to Bartimaeus, his father was also blind. So don't think that they had not tried to do something to be well. They had seen doctors, they had gone to witches, they had done so many things to receive their sights back. And everything naturally possible, like we said, had failed. So they needed something that would defy the natural law. And this is where a miracle comes in. The only thing that would save them after years of blindness was supposed to be a miracle. So this story teaches us one thing, that in order for you to receive a miracle, you must be in a strategic place and a strategic atmosphere where God's presence is going to be. Number one, Bartimaeus had to be on a highway where Jesus was going to pass. If Bartimaeus was in a different place, he was not going to receive his healing. Don't think that Bartimaeus was the only blind person in that time or in his season. No, there were so many, but most of them did not get to encounter the presence or were not in the same place that Jesus was. So one way to receive your miracle is you must be strategic. You must be in a place where you can receive a miracle. That is number one. So another way you're going to receive a miracle is if you expect and desire a miracle. When we are going to still use our case study of blind Bartimaeus, we see that verse 46 says, let us go back to verse 46 says, now they came to Jericho. As he went out of Jericho with his disciples, we are talking about Jesus, and a great multitude, blind Bartimaeus, the son of Timaeus, sat by the road begging. And when he heard that it was Jesus of Nazareth, he began to cry out and say, Jesus, son of David, have mercy on me. The number two way you're going to experience or receive a miracle is if you expect a miracle, if you expect to receive a miracle. When we look at blind Bartimaeus, he had expectation that Jesus can actually heal him. That's the reason why he kept shouting, Jesus, son of David, have mercy on me. There are so many people who walked with Jesus. There are so many people who followed Christ, but it does not mean that everyone who followed Christ got healed. No, it's because some people were not expecting their miracles and they did not receive the miracles because they did not desire them. But we see desire in blind Bartimaeus because he shouts out and he says, Jesus, son of David, have a mercy on me. Jesus having mercy on him is, please, Jesus of son of David, heal me, restore my sight. So how can you shout for someone to heal you if you do not expect a miracle, if you do not expect to receive healing? So you putting yourself in a position to ask, that means you've a position of faith to ask. That means you've already accepted that God can heal you. So when you go before God to ask for, let's say, healing or for situations in your life to change, that means already you have faith, already you're expectant of a miracle and you're ready to receive one. So you must have desire and expectation to receive a miracle. The third way you can receive your miracle is when you speak about what you need with faith. Let us go into the book of Romans chapter 10, verse 17. Romans 10:17 says, so then faith comes by hearing, and hearing by the word of God. So you must have faith. If you want to receive a miracle, you must have faith. You must speak about your situation, the need that you have, but that thing you're speaking about, you must convey your need with faith. If you lack faith, even if we go back to still blind Bartimaeus had faith that the only person who can heal them is going to be Jesus. So that is one way of showing faith. Another way, when we look at the woman with the issue of blood who said, if only I could touch the hem of Jesus, only then can I be healed. That woman also had faith that I do not actually need much, but if I touch the hem of Jesus's garment, I will be healed. So that is what we call faith. For you to receive a miracle, you must convey your need, but your need with faith. Funny thing is, God knows your situation. He knows your situation. He knows what you're going through. But even if he knows, you will keep blocked, and you will keep in that situation because you have, failed to speak out on that situation with faith. So apart from witches or witch doctors who manipulate the elements of creation, who bypass protocol, who manipulate the natural way, you as a child of God, you're not going to receive a miracle, because your miracle can only happen from God. Because for a miracle to happen, we said they must be defying of a natural law. A different way a miracle can happen for you is through witchcraft, when people manipulate protocol. But a Christian, you're not going to use that, because it is not, if a miracle does not come from God, if a situation doesn't change from God, then it is bound to recur, because that means that the natural elements of creation have been defied. And the only one who can defy the natural law is that, without repercussions, is a person who set the laws, or the person who created the universe himself. So if Bartimaeus had kept silent, if he'd simply kept in waiting, because God knew that he was blind, then he was not going to receive his healing. Imagine, don't think that God had never seen that Bartimaeus is blind. He had seen Bartimaeus blind. Just like God sees the situation you're in right now, God can see whatever you're going through right now. And he knows that you need a miracle. But just because God knows that you need a miracle doesn't mean it's going to happen. Just because Bartimaeus was blind and God saw that he was blind, his healing just didn't come to him. No, our God does not work like that. God is not going to force his healing on you. He's not going to force his miracles on you. You must desire them. You must have faith. You must be expectant of a miracle. He's not just simply going to do a miracle just because he sees you. If he sees you in that situation and you're doing nothing about it, you're going to remain exactly in that situation. God will wait. God will wait to offer you deliverance until you ask for his visitation, because miracles are not automatic. No. Miracles are not automatic. Miracles happen because you need and expect that miracle. So you must desire that miracle, and you must have expectation that that miracle can happen to you. So another way to receive your miracle is when you allow yourself to change, and only change will trigger your miracle. Like, you align yourself. For a long time, Bartimaeus was a beggar. He sat on that path where Jesus happened to pass that day. But every day when he sat on that path, he simply begged. He begged for food, he begged for money, he begged for bread. He simply begged. Like, his desire was, how do I eat? How do I sleep? His desire had never been healing. But that day he desired, that day he accepted to change, and that day he wished to change, he's like, it is time I stop being blind. If I'm blind, if I receive my sight back, I will get my vision back. If I get my vision back, I will have a mission. If I have a mission, I will then have provision. If I have provision, like that day he sat down and he got tired of that blindness. That day you sit down and you get tired of that situation, and then you desire change. Change is going to trigger a miracle, because then God is not going to bring you a miracle before you notice that you need change. God is not going to simply give you something before you, like, if you're the kind of person, let me give an example. Everyone can notice that you're due for marriage. Let's say you're due for marriage, but inside you do not feel that you should be married yet. Marriage is not going to happen to you, because God is not going to give you a godly marriage except you desire it. Like, it must start with you. You must be ready for a change. If you're not ready for a change, a miracle is not going to happen to you. So as long as you are still comfortable in that situation, as long as tonakowa bulungi mbeera eyo, a miracle is not going to happen. As long as you still feel you can survive the way things are, you will continue to beg, you will continue to stay in that situation. Just like blind Bartimaeus, he continued to beg. All he cared about was food. All he cared about was, do I have a few coins? That's what he cared about. But that day he desired change, that day he said, enough is enough, I must see, then he triggered his miracle. So another way for you to receive your miracle is for you to desire change. Accept that change. Change is going to trigger a miracle. So another way is to be specific what you need. God sees so many things that you need. Even you know that there's so many things that you need. You have so many things that you need. So you want God to wake up one morning and give you 10 miracles at a go because you need so many things. So you want God to, you want to wake up one morning and you have everything you desire without you asking. Do you feel that is, do you even feel that is reasonable? So you have to be specific where you need the miracle to happen. You have to be specific and tell God, because there's so many things you want, there's so many things you desire, but where exactly do you need a miracle? Be specific. When you come to God, be specific and tell God, I am tired of this, I am tired of that, and this is where exactly I need change. Because when you know and ask God exactly where you need to change, that means you're coming to God with faith. And your faith is going to be tried, and it's going to, faith is never faith until your faith is tried. So when you come to God and you're specific and you're like, God, I want change in this situation, that means your faith is being tried. That means now you're accepting. So allow your faith to be tried. Allow yourself to go through that situation, and exactly that situation you're going through, you ask God for change, because only then is your faith going to prevail. Faith happens, or faith is tested when it has been tried, and then it prevails after. You should get rid of every negative garment. You should get rid of every situation in your life, that where you feel you need change. And in that situation, you come to God and ask with faith, and you be exact and specific and tell God, I need change. When you want to receive a miracle, get rid of situations or circumstances that block you from receiving that miracle. If it means that you need to change the environment to get a miracle, change the environment. If you need to change the people you hang around with, you have to do that. Because I will tell you one thing. A miracle is not going to happen if you're hanging with people who don't believe. If you're still the same old person who has no faith, if you're dealing with people who say it can't happen, that thing cannot, God cannot do that, healing cannot happen, God does not heal, this and this and this. If you're surrounding yourself with people who have doubt, and they're creating doubt in your head, or you failed to peel yourself out of locations or situations that prevent a faith, then miracles are not going to happen. You need to change your garment, you need to change your location, you need to be ready to receive a miracle. So just like Jesus asked blind Bartimaeus, what do you want me to do for you? Today God is asking, what do you want me to do for you? Because like we've established, Jesus is not going to come and drop a miracle. No. He is going to stand at the door knocking and asking, what do you want me to do for you? It's you to tell God which area of your life you want to be attended to. It's you to tell God, I need a miracle. Let us go tell God where we need miracles today. Ciao.